I was actually doing my PhD on autism, how autistic brains process information. When I published my first autism study, I discovered something that surprised me quite a lot. My paper turned out to be behind a paywall, but it turned out our university did not have the subscription to this particular life science journal. And that was very surprising because it was like, hey, I'm at one of these great universities. How come we can't access a very basic life science journal? And on the other hand, it also frustrated me. It gave me this impression, if I can't access my very own paper, what about other researchers? How can we learn from research if we can't even access it? In the subscription model, universities pay publishers so that researchers at their university can access the content of the scientific journals. The problem with that is that the subscription to these journals is really quite costly. And as a consequence, there is not one single university in the world that has access to all of the scientific publications, to all of the science journals out there. That was my wake-up call, and it was then at that moment in time when my husband Henry, who's also a neuroscientist, when he and I decided that it was time to stop talking and really start acting. And that's when we decided to start Frontiers.
Well, you know, when we started Frontiers, there were three problems. The first was only about 2% of the data, the scientific data, was actually open to the world. It was locked up. The second is that it was very subjective, which opened it up to a lot of politicking, and it was a non-scientific process. And the third was that it was analog. So it was very archaic.
When I first started as a PhD student, what you had to do was go to the library, and there was a periodical shelf, and physical copies of recent journals were available there, and you'd have to thumb through them, find out which papers were of interest, and then you would literally write to the authors of those papers and request a preprint. And so the process of getting the paper from the person who wrote it onto your desk took weeks, sometimes months. Today it's completely different. We have amazing amount of information available to us at our fingertips with the click of a button. But that only works if the information is freely available to us.
After the knowledge is available, it really wipes up completely the difference between the single person who has an idea and the top Nobel laureates who has all the money in the world to produce new data. Let's say that all articles about COVID would have been closed. It wouldn't be solved within a few months. The fact that it was open, for this particular thing, all the journals opened it because it was clear that it's a matter of, life or death of the whole planet. Then it became open, and then the information flew from China to Israel to this to that. Thousands and thousands of papers. Now with AI, it's even better to assemble, and the solution came much faster than it would be otherwise.
In order to accelerate innovation, in order to fuel our knowledge economy effectively, we actually need to be making this science openly accessible so that we can find solutions even better, so that people can live literally better lives, healthier lives, and more prosperous lives.
We're one of the earliest digital scientific publishers, and we realized the potential. So we innovated on every aspect that digital offered, which was to create article level metrics. So people could, based on whether they view the paper, they download the paper, they cite the paper, you could now evaluate papers. But we could also create very sophisticated technology to workflow the whole process of peer reviewing a paper. We were the first publishers to really integrate AI into a single product we call IRA, Artificial Intelligence Reviewer Assistant, long before this huge revolution that we're seeing today. So scientific publishing is really about validating a scientific work before it goes into the foundation of knowledge. With the advent of AI, it was possible to do so much more in terms of background checking a paper. Checking whether the methods are solid, checking whether the statistics, the math, is there any plagiarism? All the aspects of the paper are really reproducible. Is it a solid piece of work? But ultimately, the final decision is made by a leading scientist from somewhere in the world that is expert in that field. More importantly, our data management platform enables scientists to share their data so that it can be combined and used in new studies, which they then get credit for. FairSquared is Frontier's data management platform. Scientists actually have a huge amount of data. Today, they're only publishing the paper which describes the data and describes what they understand about the data or the interpretation or the implications of the data. Once it's certified, it's citable. This will give scientists a whole new way to build up their careers, get grants, and advance their studies.
So this is more about the technology and lots of innovation that happened on that aspect. But I believe that we have a much bigger responsibility in Frontiers towards society, to open a dialogue with the public, to make everybody understand the magic and the importance of science and of scientific concepts. Whether we are a neuroscientist like I am or an endocrinologist, to actually create this urgency in society. We are facing a big planetary health crisis. That's why we launched the Frontiers Planet Prize 3 years ago, to shine really a spotlight on breakthrough solutions for planetary health.
But the Frontiers Planet Prize is, in my view, a unique initiative, an effort of establishing a world-leading prize to support science that really takes the holistic perspective of integrating people in the entire world and Earth system at the planetary scale. And that is unique. There's nothing like that in the world. But the second unique feature of the Frontiers Planet Prize is that it's about science. It's about celebrating science. It's about investing in science. It's the world's largest prize, 3 times 1 million Swiss francs. Not only prestigious, but it's also an encouragement. It's an enormous support for the frontier of our ability to navigate the future in a state where the planet must now be taken care of in its entirety.
There's a two-way exchange of information between the scientists advising the policymakers on the research that has to be done, and the policymakers understanding that and advising us how to do it. And I'm sure the same is true in every other area of science, in particular in climate science.
Within the next 25 years, we must transition from carbon-fueled economies into net zero clean economies. While we're providing food for 8 to 10 billion people, while we're providing energy systems for this amount of people, lifting everybody into prosperity and the type of living standards that we enjoy here in Europe or in North America. So that in itself is a huge endeavor.
The main aim is to publish. But there are other things in Frontiers that is something else. It has a vision to repair the world.
People's lives depend on science. And forget the scientists, this is about ordinary people. Open access publishing is critical in science, but it's also fundamental to the future of our planet.
Open access is an accelerator of collaboration, innovation, and scientific discovery. We have a very recent example of the power of open science, the COVID crisis.
But what has been achieved for COVID has not yet been achieved for many other sectors. If you take other respiratory diseases, cancer, cardiovascular, this is killing tens of millions of people every single year. COVID has shown us that it can be done. We can achieve miracles within a very short time period. 1 year, vaccines and treatments delivered because we had free and unrestricted access to all of the scientific output. It actually is very cost effective. We don't need to do any further investments. We're anyways funding all of this science with our taxes. All that policymakers need to do actually is to say, okay, this research needs to be then made openly accessible. And with that, we will accelerate all of the solutions that we actually need to live healthy lives within the boundaries of a healthy planet.